Hey Tommy, how are you?
Hey, good Kevin, how you doing?
All right, so plastering day, always signs of progress in the house, which you like?
I love it when the plaster goes in.
Now, so in the Northeast, we do plaster on blue board quite a bit, but that's not really the trend across the country.
No, I think the majority of the country does what is called drywall, and they tape the joints and joint compound.
So let's talk about the difference.
Okay, so here is a sheet right here. This is drywall. If you look at the color is a little bit different. This drywall is meant to accept joint compound, a pre-mixed product like this right here. It comes in a tub, it's pre-mixed, and you build it up with multiple layers. You put your primer on, you have to wait for that to dry, usually overnight, and then you put another coat on, and then wait for that to dry, and then you put another coat on and sand all the joints.
But in that case, you're talking about just the joints, and the major part of the field, that's left plain.
Right. If you look here, see this tape? This is a fiberglass tape like this. So you can use the fiberglass tape on joint compound like that, but a lot of guys like to use a paper tape. That means that you have to put your base coat on first of your joint compound, set this in the wet joint compound, and then cover that, and then cover it again and sand it. So it's time consuming. You know, it could take a couple of days to do a room, and you'd also have to fill all the joints.
So we have the compound here, this stays paper, and then ultimately this gets painted right here.
Well, this is meant to accept paint. You know, you sand it in, you feather it in, and you paint all of this. With this board here, this plaster board, the whole thing gets skimmed. It's really not for paint.
So blue board often, and really that name just comes from the sort of blue tint to it?
Yeah, it's a slang that the plasterers use. We hang the blue board, you know. But it's really a different makeup. The paper is different to accept the product. It's different.
Because the plaster is wet, so this whole field's going to be covered.
Right. Now this is a veneer plaster. They're going to cover all the seams with a veneer plaster. You see they have the tape in here. They're going to build that up because this is dimpled down a little bit, and that allows for the thickness of the plaster to be thicker here than here and cover that tape. You also see the screws, how they're dimpled in a little bit.
Yeah, sort of recessed a touch.
It's very important that you do that on any kind of board that you're hanging because you want to have a space for the joint compound or the plaster to build up. And then you bring it out and you sand it flush on wallboard, but plaster, they're going to cover everything.
So the first step is obviously just working the seams. How long does that take to set up?
Depending on weather conditions, usually about an hour. And once it's set up and kind of dry, then they can veneer coat the whole wall and all the joints.
You got one guy working high, one guy working low, and a third guy keeping the hawk full of plaster.
That's right. The guy working high is on stilts, and that saves a lot of time. And it's not a type of a job that a homeowner could do.
I've tried it. It is really an art.
You can't stop. You got to keep going until you've got that whole wall covered.
And you can see how the technique is just to keep that trowel moving. Always keep it on the surface, always keep it moving.
Keep it moving, try to keep it flat, but also keep the consistency of the thickness. Now you can see Mike, the guy on the floor here, he's blending it right up into the upper section. You don't want to stop, you don't want to create a joint. All right, so now that Phil has applied the base in each corner, he's taking a corner trowel, make that joint nice and tight.
You can see that that trowel's got a little bit of a spring to it, so it always pushes in tight.
Yeah, it's beyond 90 degrees. Next step is to let it set a little bit. It can't get too dry. And then he's going to start adding water to the mix and troweling it again. And as they do that, you're going to see it really start to flatten out. It's going to take about 2 weeks in this weather condition for this to really dry and the plaster set before you can paint it.
Well, it's definitely an art form.
It sure is.
Thanks for watching. This Old House has got a video for just about every home improvement project, so be sure to check out the others. And if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button to make sure that you get our newest videos right in your feed.